A second. This is Becky.
All right, thanks, Becky. All right, and all in favor?
Aye.
All right, any opposed? Okay, all right, thank you. So our next item is adopting our minutes from last month. So again, if I can get a motion.
Yeah, I move that we adopt the minutes as written.
And can I get a second?
I'll second. This is Danielle.
All right, thank you. And all in favor?
Aye.
All right, any opposed? Wonderful. All right. So that brings us to our main event. So I do have the slides that we prepared late last fall with just a couple minor refreshes pulled up to just kind of walk through our work plan for this year and gather feedback. And certainly, we want to make this conversational. So please, feel free to jump in at any point with questions or comments. Right. So we thought it might be helpful just to level set a little bit on what our current responsibilities are and how those are outlined in the bylaws. So as of right now, the Environmental Sustainability Board is really tasked with focusing on our tree and urban forestry matters, along with recycling and energy use. So with those, that would include helping develop and implement the ordinances, helping with community outreach and education, and then planning the community event. Specifically, this would be the Arbor Day event that tends to happen annually outside of 2020. So just a couple of things that our board has worked on to support staff to accomplish over the past couple of years would be updating the tree ordinance, working on the public service announcements around the Tree City commitments that we made. So you've probably seen a lot of the tree tags around the city. We've worked to roll out some recycling education in partnership with Waste Pro. We worked to get our B City designation, which will hopefully continue to be renewing that. And then, we mentioned the Arbor Day celebration each year. So around, really, I'd say probably mid last year, the board started to discuss what additional focus areas we may want to expand to, and thought it would be good to just conduct a survey and kind of gauge with residents where they would like to see us focus. And so the survey responses that we were able to get back last fall showed a really strong preference around smart growth and sustainable infrastructure, which I'll show in a second kind of what we defined that to be, along with watershed protection. The third preference was energy and the environment, and the last was urban agriculture. So you can see here kind of what's grouped within those. Smart growth and infrastructure is really around I'd say a lot of the work we're already doing with the protecting the trees, protecting natural areas. And we included in that the infrastructure piece around supporting pathways for bike and pedestrian travel. Water protection was really focused around protection for riverways. And we included that wastewater section within watershed protection as well. What we were thinking around energy and environment is really leading more to essentially kind of carbon, air quality, emissions. So you can think of that, and knowing environmental reduction can be fairly vague. That's where our head was going with that, kind of the emissions related to energy and fuels that tie directly to air quality benefits. And the urban agriculture piece here was, I would say, really, we kind of limited the scope of that to focus around kind of local, let's say, gardening, as well as ways to reduce compostable waste. So based on this, our board came together and discussed the fact that, with such a strong preference for smart growth and sustainable infrastructure, we initially thought that would be a good area for us to focus. But in conversation with staff, it sounded like there's a number of groups who are really already focusing on that. And with our tree ordinance update, we felt like that would hopefully meet the need for where most of the residents thought we should be focusing. Similarly, with watershed protection, we believe there's a number of groups and nonprofits in the area who, again, are already solely focused on this. So where we felt like there's really almost no activity to date is really on the energy section. So you'll see, knowing that that's already mentioned in our bylaws and we're not currently very active in that space, that was the item that we chose to build into our work plan for this year. So maybe at this point, I'll pause and just see if there's any questions or comments around these focus areas and our kind of decision to focus on energy despite what the survey was showing us.
This is Jim Catherine. That seems like it. I'm getting an echo here. Wow. That seems like it makes sense because we do have, the planning board already, I think, handles a lot of the growth, and obviously with the Riverkeeper and some other organizations, they handle the watershed protection. So that seems smart, and I also understand that you all have some role to play with the tree protection because there was some appeal to you all regarding the tree inventory or something on one of the properties, and that seemed like a very useful function that you served with that, and it seemed like it worked out pretty well, at least the first one that you all did. I don't know how many more there would be, but
I think we have another one next week. So
oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
A week from tonight, we have our second one.
Yeah.
Well, that seemed like it was a good feature and a good use of you all's expertise in that area. So I thought that was a good way that you could sort of contribute to some of that, the goal of smart growth and everything.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Jim. Any other comments or questions on this before I jump into our work plan?
I would just agree with Jim. I think especially the way the tree ordinance has worked out, I think that's, it seems like it's a pretty good process.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that kind of came to mind, like if you, I guess it kind of touches on energy, environmental reduction and growth and whatnot. But like things like building design, the Riverkeepers hosted what I thought was really interesting webinar last week on, I think they called it blue buildings or something like that. Like, you've got green buildings, which are all about like, you've got the green roofs and that sort of thing. This was focused more on like capturing water and sort of mitigating runoff and stuff like that in creative ways.
Nice.
I don't really, that might be kind of maybe a joint effort between you guys and planning if there was any sort of opportunity for us to explore there, as far as, because they were looking at specific like commercial buildings. But that was just the only thing that kind of popped in my head as you were kind of going through this, is if you kind of wanted to maybe take off some of these other areas. I think that might be something you could look at it, because I think it touches on energy and environmental reduction, but would also kind of allow you to be responsive to some of these, like watershed protection and sustainable infrastructure and stuff like that too. But I wouldn't really know how to get started on that. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, it's a good comment. I would say in my mind, it seems like, we could certainly reach out to those groups and coordinate, because they tend to kind of know like what some of the current problem areas are and where they may need, either policy support or just collaboration.
Right.
So yeah, I think starting with just making those connections, it's a good next step.
And I just, sorry.
No, go ahead, Jim.
Any energy efficiency, I really like anything that can sort of couple, good environmental stewardship with also like reducing costs and saving money where, we might be inefficient. And I think Seth presented to you all at some point, or was supposed to, about ways to maybe work towards that. Because I mean, that just seems like a win-win for everyone, that, we're helping the environment, but at the same time, we're reducing costs. So that's, I think a double benefit.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, Jim, we just 2 weeks ago posted a blog posting on Facebook for the city related to energy conservation tips, how to save money on your winter heating bills. And of course, Jennifer will continue that into this month. But, so those are things we're already trying to focus on. We do have a series of postings that we'd like to do, but energy is so pervasive that it cuts across, as Mark was saying, buildings, it cuts across transportation, cuts across city-owned facilities and fleets. And so there's so many ways we can attack the energy footprint of the city and of the citizens. So that, that would require much greater focus to be able to at least understand where to start from, because it's a big topic. It can be overwhelming if we don't focus on a specific area to start with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think, our definition of that energy, I would say, is not limited to just the city and city operations. We were really looking at holistically as a community. So, to Rob's point, a lot of the items in our work program for this year around energy are focused more on that kind of education, awareness, and outreach to the community. But certainly happy to add items to this just around how we can help the city around their own energy management and reductions. Okay, so I'll jump in here again. Some of this is slightly outdated, given the scheduling for this, but overall we're kind of breaking our board into a couple of groups to focus on waste and recycling, the trees, as well as the Arbor Day event and energy related tasks. So for the first part of this year, really focus more on starting the planning for the Arbor Day event. We're doing the Tree City application, some of the work that we were working with Bill around the waste RFP and just reviewing those bids with him. So I think we're all set with that. And we're really pleased with the direction that the city looks to be going there. So Bill, I'm not sure if you had anything else you wanted to add with that.
Well, I won't talk too much about it, and of course, I'm open to any questions anybody may have about that. But yes, I did invite Jennifer and Rob down to look at some of the RFP bids that we had discussed previously, and we talked about it and got some good feedback to take back to council. And when the time comes to select a vendor, and I think we got real good feedback, and we made a lot of productive discussions that will lead us in the right direction. So we're moving forward on that, and I look forward to continue to work with you all on that.
Thanks, Bill.
Okay, great. So I think similar to our focus on the energy, really being around awareness. I think that's what we're envisioning a lot of the recycling tasks moving forward will be. So, regardless of what vendor is selected, I think just making sure that the community fully understands what can and can't be recycled, and just continuing that education campaign to keep it top of mind for them. So you'll see that that's kind of, almost monthly. We have some type of recycling and education campaign, a lot of which will probably be social media, some of which may be working through the school system, but really leaning on our waste partners to provide a lot of the content there. So I think that's a key aspect that we communicate to Bill, is just making sure we're holding them accountable to support the education campaign. Let's see. So I know that we don't really show the energy task showing up until mid-year. I think we wanted to make sure that we get the new waste vendor on board, and all of that education and outreach kind of underway. But I will say we're already starting, as Rob mentioned, with some of the social media awareness to try to kind of build up to to a larger campaign towards the middle to end of this year in preparation for Energy Awareness Month. And let's see if anyone else wants to jump in and bring up any other specific. I didn't really want to go bullet by bullet, but if there's anything that anyone wants to highlight, please do.
Yeah, I guess, Jennifer, the general question for our city council guests is, is there anything missing from this that just doesn't seem to align with either the major areas like recycling, trees, canopies, and energy? Is there anything we might have inadvertently admitted?
I mean, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but you all have greater expertise than I. But I think these are, fine things to be focusing on, and I don't see anything glaringly missing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not seeing anything. Well, I guess I'm not seeing anything. Yeah, I mean, you guys definitely seem like you're going to be busy. So I think you've definitely got a lot on your plate.
Yeah, but it's good to be focused. And I mean, I when I was a professor, I'd have students that they'd just be like, "Oh, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this," and I'm like, "But none of that's like really helping you, like." To where you need to be for the final exam. So it's great that you have the energy, but it needs to be focused on, what's going to accomplish your end game. So, I think this is all very structured and very good. What all were you thinking in terms of the Arbor Day celebration, given the, what do they like to say, the these uncertain times that we live in?
The current climate.
Yes.
Yeah. I think Doug or Sharon, do either of you want to take it?
I guess I'll start it off, and then Sharon or Becky can kind of lead in. So we're thinking about, we have Arbor Day and Earth Day, and a lot of times you split those up, or you can keep them together. And so we're doing a little bit from column A, a little bit from column B. And so the first part of that, we have a certain commitment, being a tree city to uphold. And one of those is holding an Arbor Day and making sure that we associate with outreach and education. So we're doing that in a couple different parts. One is with this social media statements that we're putting out there from Belmont. Another one is we're going through the education, setting up a contest for students within our Belmont schools to participate in. And we have a topic that we're going to launch out. It's secret now, but it's really good. We just came up with it last week for all the kids in Belmont. We're looking into a tree giveaway, a sapling giveaway coming up in March, and then we're going to couple that in April with kind of the Earth Day side of it, and that's going to be a couple of virtual things. One, we're going to have a live panel discussing a very relevant topic, perhaps recycling or power usage, and then we're going to have 3 or 4 recorded topics, just kind of appropriate to where we are in these times, and being able to dole out information that's important to Belmont residents. Becky, Sharon, you want to add to that?
I think you did a great job of summing that up, Doug. I think just one additional, we're going to try and make it very, focused on some, local activities around, creating a green home, that is tied a bit to what you were mentioning as far as how to make it real to the community. And, you were saying about, what the Riverkeeper had done with the water program. And so that's just one that's going to be, so we're trying to tie it back to the community, the beekeeper that was working on the community garden. We're trying to find experts from the community, from Belmont as much as possible, because there's been a lot of passionate people out there doing a lot of good work. So we're really trying to, you know, bring them in, and by having pre-recorded content, even if somebody's maybe not a confident, you know, speaker, we still, you know, they have the opportunity to be able to be part of that. So we try to consider all different aspects of it, and I think we've got a good program coming together. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, and the only thing I'll add to that is we reached out to Tree Charlotte, which is an organization in the Charlotte area that is dedicated to providing free trees to maintain the tree canopy in Charlotte. And they've been doing these drive-through tree giveaways for months now, you know, due to the pandemic. So they've kind of nailed down the right way to do it. And so they've given us their best practices and their tips and tricks. And then they've also agreed to give us some educational material that we can, you know, distribute to our residents who take part in that event.
Awesome. So thank you. You heard from, I think, all of the members of our tree or Arbor Day subcommittee. So thank you guys. Okay. So I guess, you know, while we have our council members here, it would be good just to gauge interest. Again, going back to the energy topic for a second, knowing that what we have laid out here is that, you know, awareness and community focus. So I think just understanding, you know, how amenable you would be to us expanding that to include that view of the city operations, and just like who might be our best point of contact to work with to, like I know we had talked with Seth before about getting all of the utility data and just energy consumption and cost information. So we might be able to make recommendations. And I know he was working, I think, to get a lot of that information loaded into Energy Star to get scores to kind of benchmark where the current city facilities would lie using that kind of industry standard tool. So I guess any guidance there on, you know, where we can jump in to help and where you all would see value?
Well, I guess maybe that might be an Adrian question more than for. I know Mark's the data guy, so I'm sure he'd be excited about all of the information that Seth would hope to generate. But
yeah.
You know, I'd leave that to Adrian maybe more for the day-to-day operations and where it might be the best to start or focus.
Yeah,
we can barely hear you.
Can't hear you, Adrian. Okay, I guess we're getting the thumbs up. Does that mean we're okay? So maybe we can continue that conversation. All right, but it sounds like we're all open to that. Kind of moving in that direction.
Yeah, I mean, I would kind of you know, just to piggyback on what Jim said, you know, I think, you know, whatever, you know, I think from the data perspective, I think the value there would be in kind of looking at the cost benefit side of things, you know, and especially looking at like the cost recovery, like how long it would take to, because presumably, you know, generally, I guess the way these things work is you have to put in a little money up front and then you make it back on however long that takes, you know, and so that would also be a factor too, you know, because like if it's something that takes 20 years to make your money back, that's all different than something that takes like, you know, 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
You know, so I think from a financial perspective, that is also important. So just kind of looking at it from all angles.
But I think it's good to just know and then be able to make those cost benefit analyses, because I bet there's a lot of stuff that we don't even know is inefficient or could be done better until we undertake, you know, these activities, and then we might be like, oh my God, you know, why were we doing it this way? You know, so, you know, because I feel like we've done that in some other areas, and it's been helpful to sort of you know, bring things more in focus and not just do things because that's the way they're always done, maybe the data shows there's a better way to do things that will, save us energy, save us costs, whatever. And until we find that out, we're just stumbling around in the dark.
Yeah.
So to speak.
We don't know until we ask the question.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's perfect. Yeah. So I think the approach we would take there is, get the city's data, do some of the benchmarking, potentially coordinate to do some assessments where the data leads us, where it looks like it would make sense. That could tie in with some of our energy awareness campaign, where, for instance, like we could pull in some high school students to even shadow that energy assessment and just kind of understand the process. But really, the output of that would hopefully be kind of a list of recommendations that the city could, decide whether or not they want to proceed with, and just how they would proceed with taking those to, to set aside the investment needed to achieve the savings. So, okay, great.
Yeah, and I think we're working with Seth to develop some sort of a baseline metrics on where we are now, right?
Yes, definitely. I think that was part of the upfront benchmarking, kind of using that data to see exactly kind of how the buildings stack up currently, for sure.
So we're currently going through Seth. Is there someone else that we should work through as well, or just use him?
And since Eagle Park doesn't have any internet right now, this is Kevin Kraus, by the way. I'm the new assistant to the regional manager, I like to call myself. So feel free to reach out to me with any of these things. I'll put my contact information in the chat box, and you guys can grab that down. I'll put my email and phone number. So always feel free to reach out to me. I work with operations at City Hall and those facilities, so I'll be a good point of contact. I can get anything to Adrian that's necessary as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Kevin.
Yeah, thanks. Right. And Peyton, real quick, Rob mentioned that I think he got kicked out of the call and he's waiting to rejoin. I think you might have to let him back into the meeting.
I'm back. Thanks, Jennifer.
Oh, okay, perfect. All right. So I don't want to skip over this bullet here towards the bottom. I think one thing to highlight is this board has typically never had a set aside budget. So for this year, we're looking at a budget request of roughly $1,000 just to have some kind of discretionary funds to put towards a lot of these education campaigns. So having not gone through any kind of a formal budget request process before, I think this is really just to put on your radar, and then we could work with staff kind of separately to formalize that.
That seems fine. I mean, $1,000. I mean, even, somebody from Main Street comes to us with a facade enhancement grant, and that's like $2,500. So I would think $1,000 is.
Sorry, that's a typo on the page here.
Yeah.
Did I say 1,000?
I think we're missing a couple zeros.
Well.
No, just kidding.
Misplaced.
I guess the only thing I would say is I don't really see this as being very objectionable, but it might not be a bad idea to have some firm ideas about what you intend to spend it on. We're going to print up booklets or something for this, or we're going to, buy stickers for that sort of thing. Just, that if the question is asked, you're kind of prepared to give an idea. But, again, it's also only $1,000 out of like a $10 million budget or something. So, I don't see anybody getting too bent out of shape about it.
Yeah, I think our idea here is mostly around like educational materials. We don't have a more detailed breakout for now, but we can definitely put that together.
Yeah.
So. Okay. So the last item I had, I'm going to bring in Peyton to help support this. This gets into a nuance that's in our bylaws that we're requesting a specific change. So I guess, Peyton, do we need to go over what the ETJ member is?
I can touch on that if you want.
Okay.
I know that for our other boards like planning and zoning, there is a designated ETJ member So when we were kind of looking at the current ESB bylaws and what the board consists of now, we were kind of thinking maybe we could ask council to add a ETJ member. So we would have a total of 8 voting members, 6 regular members, one of those being an ETJ member. So 5 regular, 1 ETJ, and then keeping our 2 student members. This would allow us, per our bylaws, to add an ex officio member, and we are kind of maybe hoping to add a tree or landscaping expert. They could help assist us with our new tree and landscaping ordinance if we ever had any questions like that. So that is something we wanted to take to council to see if we could get their blessing to add another member to the ESB.
You know, that seems fine. I know the Planning and Zoning Board has an ETJ member. The Board of Adjustment has an ETJ member. My only question is, you know, what's the pool of applicants going to be? Because I know sometimes it's hard to come up with an ETJ member, or at least on the Board of Adjustments it was. Planning and Zoning doesn't seem to be as hard. I don't know what, you know, what the size of the you know, the pool would be, and whether you'd be able to easily fill it.
Right now we have Sharon Johnson, who is technically our ex officio member. We were kind of hoping we could move her to be the current ETJ member, but definitely understand for the future. I don't know what that pool would be either.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a similar question, you know, but I mean, if you've got somebody lined up, and I don't know, I guess it would just be important to continue to develop that pool of people for that, because I wouldn't want to get into a situation where, you know, we end up with an empty seat because we can't find anybody to fill it.
Yeah.
But
because I'm assuming that you all have term limitations like the other boards, and if you serve like 2 consecutive terms, you have to roll off before you can come back on, or something, some such.
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that one.
Yes, we can. I can't recall right now if we can serve 2 or 3 consecutive terms, but yes, that is in the bylaws.
Okay. Because that's the only time where it becomes an issue when, like I've seen someone, I think it was with the Board of Adjustment, someone was term limited out, and then it took them quite a while to find someone to replace that person. Again, it's not an issue so much with planning and zoning, although it tends to be the same 2 people that go back and forth. But you know, I'm open to it in theory. I just, you know, I hope that in you know, a number of years are not like, well, now we got to go back because the ETJ spot's open and we can't find anyone to fill it. So we should fill it with, you know, we should just change it back to a regular member or something. But, you know, that's, I mean, I'm fine with it, you know, in theory. I just raised that one point. But I mean, I don't have an issue. I'm not gonna, you know, browbeat you all over it. I just, you know, I've seen that with some other boards, so I just want to make sure that, you know,
been considered.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I've noticed, I think we're on staggered terms. I mean, some of us are on 1 year, 2 year, or even 3 year terms. And so, you know, there could be turnover every single year for this board as well.
Well, I think that's, I mean, we were trying, I was on the planning and zoning and Mark was on Parks and Rec. So we've been on boards, and I think the idea always is to have that staggering so that you're not replacing the entire board at one time. And we did have to sort of finagle some terms to get that. And of course I mean, people move, people have other commitments, people have family commitments, and sometimes they have to roll off in the middle of a term and you have to replace them as well. So, you know, things happen, but I mean, I don't think that's going to be a big problem with adding an ETJ member, since other boards already have them.
Yeah. Okay. So again, I guess not being familiar with like the formal procedure here, is there any kind of vote? Like, do we just have to propose this change to the bylaws and then it would be brought up at the next council meeting? Adrian's saying thumbs up. Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Adrian.
I don't think we haven't seen a change to the bylaws since I've been on council, so I don't know.
Okay. We'll lean on staff to guide us through this process.
Okay.
Okay. And that was the last item that I had. So anyone have anything else they wanted to bring up and discuss with the board? I know Rob mentioned anything not on our radar that the city would like us to be considering, or just any last thoughts, comments, or questions?
Jennifer, if I may, this is Bill. And this is something that I just wanted to bring up to make sure staff gets the feedback we need. So as we proceed through our solid waste contract process, we know what guidance and are clear in our guidance. I would, ask if there's any discussion with the council or the Environmental Sustainability Board on any of the items in the solid waste contract and where you'd like to see us go and take it. And if there is any differences of opinion, I'd like to note those so we can kind of work that out.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I just think that the solid waste contract's going to be pretty important because that's something that affects everyone in the city. And, I know that there, depending on where you live, there have been more or less problems with the, certain aspects of the current waste contract. And I know there's, some things we'd like to see changed, but of course there's also the cost consideration. So it's going to be a very big balancing act, but I just think that it's going to be something that, lots of people are going to be concerned about here in the city. And so I want to make sure that we act deliberately and, dot all our I's and cross our T's and make sure that what we end up with is the best that we can do for everyone in the city. Because, what's the typical term of such a contract?
It's a 5-year contract.
It's a 5-year. I mean, and because I do remember I wasn't on council yet, but they did not, whether it's Waste Pro or someone else, but, Waste Pro did not like the current contract, and they came to city council a couple of years ago and tried to get them to amend it to give them more money, which they were not entitled to do. But, they did try and get us, our costs have gone up. Can you pay us more money? So, obviously we wouldn't want to be in that situation on the other end where we're trying to beg them to reduce costs because we locked ourselves into a bad deal for 5 years.
Jennifer, do we have the proposals for solid waste contracts?
Yeah, we do. Rob and I had a chance to review those bids with Bill last week.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me know if you need anyone to go on any field trips to gather additional information. Just always so interested in those facilities and how they do things.
That's a good plug. Well,
Yeah.
I appreciate, Bill, you reaching out and asking us to participate in that review. That it was beneficial to see that and to think through, what are the ways in which we can ask for data reporting, as we talked about with you, to be able to track performance of the selected contractor and how well we can measure that performance over the next 5 years as an indicator of whether or not we need to make some adjustments in terms of the service that they're providing. That's kind of the business I'm in. We're always judged on our ability to deliver against a contract. So that's what we all gravitate to in a 5-year deal like this.
Certainly.
Yeah, it seems like the biggest pain points in the current contract, I guess, are the service delivery and then the customer service, where, when there's a failure in the service delivery, people have trouble getting appropriate response from the vendor. So, I think that's because, I think especially since, in 5 years, something is apt to go wrong. So kind of thinking through like how we would handle, service issues or whatever, and making sure that the vendor is responsive to problems, I think would probably be important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because, I've heard people complain, they call the phone number and it's like, it basically goes into a black hole somewhere, and then people get upset because, especially in the world we live in, you expect instant response and accountability and everything. So when nothing happens, that just kind of makes people upset. So,
and more of a schedule and that can be published so people know what to expect when, instead of just like, well, it's been, I don't know how long since my leaves were collected. Where the hell is it? All right, well, I'll check with the city manager and see, next week the leaves get collected. Well, that's great, but, isn't there supposed to be some sort of set schedule? I mean, I feel like that because I'm like, well, I don't want to, rake my leaves to the side and have them sit there and blow all over the place for like 5 weeks. But if I know, the leaf collection's coming Tuesday, I can do it over the weekend and have it all ready. I don't know. I just like, I like to plan. So I like to be able to have some foresight.
There's supposed to be a schedule.
Well, that's what I was told, but I'm like, well, I mean, I know, that's what I told my neighbor. I'm like, as sure as your leaves have been sitting out there for, since the dawn of time, so have mine. And I know that the schedule is every X weeks, but, I think we can both say pretty clearly that, nothing's come, in months, let alone weeks.
Those are perfect points, and I've also experienced them, and I also chit-chat with my neighbors and hear the same thing. Phones not being answered and having no clue when certain things are going to be picked up. So, I always like talking to vendors, going over like, this is what we really like about you, and here are areas of improvement. And I think, with all the proposals that we get in, to kind of go through those by line items. And then once we get that information, relay it on the Belmont website for the schedule, where it's not just, oh, this is your waste service company, and you have to go to their website. No, it's part of Belmont. When someone thinks about their waste services, they think about, this is something my town's like providing me. So definitely put that on our website.
Certainly. And that brings up, some of the other points we've been looking at when it comes to this contract. And I got two questions for the group. And the first one is, how has Waste Pro been with solid waste and recycling? And the second question is, leaf, and you've already expressed the frustration with leaf and yard waste. With leaf and yard waste, do you think bringing that as an internal service through the city would be beneficial to residents?
It's a dynamite question. Who was the person that came in and talked to us a bit from our Waste Pro Services? What was her name?
Jennifer.
Yeah.
She was so good in providing information. We were all scared about our inability to recycle, and we found out that Belmont is actually kind of topping the charts, being able to sort our garbage and our recycling correctly. And they said that we are one of the best ones in the area, and so our prices shouldn't go up. But for further than that, for what you're asking, anyone have anything else to add to that?
I can tell you that, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. We had a chance to discuss all this with Bill already, so please, yeah.
I was going to say that, being new to Belmont, I've been a resident here for a long time, but being new to the city, I was shocked to see how high your participation rates are and little to no contamination. I've worked in 3 other cities in Gaston County, and you guys are way above where everyone else was. You're looking at 10% participation rates in those other cities, and as you can see, they've had to drop it and not even provide the service. And we have a very high participation rate. I think somewhere around, I heard a 70% number at one point, and no contamination, which is remarkable. It's got to be one of the tops in the nation. It's almost like a Portland, Oregon scenario here. So, I mean, it's really good. The rates,
you look proud.
the rates of recycling are going to increase. Jennifer lied to you on that, but it's out of her control. It's not because of our doing, but it's just because of the market and the really no places, less places are accepting the material. So, but there's no plans on our end of staff of recommending to not continue recycling. And something else you mentioned, Doug, a moment ago, and a few others have mentioned about the customer service standpoint. That's something that we have taken a hard stance on and realized that if you want it done right, you have to do it yourself. And we're going to bring in and be that first point of contact for our residents. Because like you say, when they call a phone number, they don't know they're calling Waste Pro or whoever. They expect to get somebody to handle that situation. So we're going to provide a liaison between the citizens and whichever company is chosen to provide that point of contact and make sure that their issues get resolved, because we don't want a frustrating experience for the citizens.
And you know, I've obviously expressed the issues with like the leave. You know, with the solid waste. I mean, and I don't know if Mark has experienced similar. I mean, I will from time to time see a post on my neighborhood's Facebook group, you know, oh, they missed these two houses, or oh, they didn't, you know, my trash was out with everyone else's and they didn't pick mine up. You know, I don't know. You know, I mean, that's sporadic, but I have seen it from time to time where they like skip houses or allegedly or whatever. So, but you know, more of the complaints, I guess, on the leaf and yard waste than on the solid waste.
Yeah, I've seen some of those posts too. I wouldn't say they're too frequent, especially when compared to the complaints around like leaf and yard waste collection. I would say personally, I was just trying to think if I've ever had an issue with them picking up the trash or recycling, and nothing came to mind. They will occasionally just like toss the bins in the street, which is kind of annoying, but they haven't done that in a while. So I guess they've gotten better drivers, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, most of the complaints I've heard have been around the leaf and yard waste. Actually, the one time I remember the guy was out on my street picking up stuff, and he picked up my neighbor's stuff, got to my house, and his truck was full, swore he was coming back, and then didn't.
Wow.
So I had this giant pile of sticks in front of my yard for like 2 weeks. So that annoyed me. But yeah, so stuff like that, you know, but yeah, I mean, the solid waste and the yard waste, even the bulk pickup, sometimes it takes them a day or two to get it, but it's usually within that week from where I've seen it. Yeah.
Bill, per your question, what capabilities do we have in-house? I mean, from one of my past meetings, someone said that we put up some sort of slogan on one of our city trucks, and I said, "What city truck?" And they said, "Oh, we have a city waste truck." And I said, "I've never seen this before, so please expound on that a bit."
Yeah, so currently, as far as leaves and yard waste, I mean, we have like a rear loader, a small rear loader, nothing for capacity of large jobs. We have a claw truck. It's got like a claw that comes out of the side, picks up, and can put the truck that's fairly old. And we did express to the council at their retreat the need, if we did bring some of this stuff in-house, we would have to get equipment. Most notably, a few leaf vacuum trucks to continue that service if we brought it in-house, and then another yard waste claw truck. So there would be equipment needs if we brought it in-house, although Adrian ran some of the financial numbers, including staff time and comparing it to the contract, the bidding that we got from various vendors. And from our numbers and our very rough calculations, it would actually save the city money by taking it in-house. Even with the equipment costs, if we kind of stretch that out over a 5-year plan. Of course, as you continue forward, you'd have to purchase new equipment on a cycle to prevent a gap in service. But so currently our capabilities are limited. The hope would be to expand those capabilities if we were to bring it in.
Thank you. So,
yeah, I remember being really struck. I did a presentation at this at our retreat, and just from a pure financial perspective, bringing that in-house seemed very attractive. And then the bonus to that is then we have complete control over the service delivery. So if somebody's leaves don't get picked up, that's a problem we can take care of right away. Mm-hmm. So I see that as being very positive on many fronts. Just my personal opinion, but.
Wow, I didn't know that was an option. And this is including like salaries of service people.
Yes, it was.
And using existing employees. That's not to hire new employees, but we believe we can absorb that with the existing staff.
Correct.
Because it's not a year-round, like the leaf collection would not be year-round. So
correct.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I've only been in Belmont for 2 years, but not one person in my neighborhood or our Facebook page has ever complained about our waste management services. So they must be doing okay. And I'm in the very southern tip of Belmont. So look, I think that the key thing here is just to make sure that, over a 5-year contractual relationship, things can change, and they do change often. There's financial insolvency and other risks that are associated with vendors, but as long as we stay in regular communication with them, we periodically review their performance, they're supplying us data and feedback, and they're open to our recommendations for changing service levels. That is what Jennifer and I communicated with Bill a couple of days ago, is just let's stay in regular communication with whoever we select and go with, and just make sure they perform to our standards.
Mm-hmm. Certainly.
It's a good point, Robert, and thank you for bringing up that you have not had waste issues to kind of...
None! I probably just jinxed myself, but 2 years, they've been great. I've had no complaints.
Is yours tomorrow? Oh, watch out.
Of course, I keep my leaves. I love my leaves in the backyard.
Okay, well, that's good feedback for me. I appreciate that discussion. And I'll just give you all kind of what the numbers look like roughly. I won't go into the details of the numbers, but Waste Pro utilizing existing carts, if we went with them for recycling and solid waste, would be the lowest priced option. That would be using the existing carts like I mentioned. So any feedback on utilizing existing carts or whether we should pursue new carts? And what your thoughts are on that.
So we have these large, nice carts right now. Are you saying to replace these or ones that are older?
So if we were potentially to go to a different vendor, they would have to get us all new carts to start, of course, because we do not own the current carts that are out there. They are owned by Waste Pro. So they would pick up all their carts and we would put out brand new or whatever carts the vendor chooses out to the resident. So Waste Pro is offering an option in their bid to utilize their existing carts. They would continue to, of course, replace any carts that were degraded or missing or problematic in any way, as they have in the past. They would continue to do that, but they wouldn't replace every single cart in the city as the contract the bid originally laid out was, new carts, because it assumes bringing in a vendor with new carts. So they offered, say, hey, these lower prices are available if we are able to utilize our current carts.
All right, I'll say that I really like my carts that are provided to me. I like the wheels on them. I like how robust they are. I like how large they are, especially having kids. Please, others, come on in. But I think the carts the ones that I have, they're not easy to break, and I like them, and I would like to keep mine.
Yeah, and that's what we were hoping, is that a lot of people, if your current cart is in a good working condition, let's salvage that and use it. That's the most economical option for the city.
If you like your cart, if you like your carts, you can keep your carts.
Thanks, Jim.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I've had mine for 8 years and I've had no problems with them. Now, they're going to fall apart tomorrow or something, but,
We'll get them replaced.
because I know, and they, Bill presented, to us at our retreat, and, one of the other, I think there was one vendor that just wanted to sell us carts, and that was not a very, financially enticing offer. To put it mildly, but I don't think there's any problem with the carts. I think the carts have held up pretty well.
In addition to that, I think Bill informed us that COVID has created a stress in the supply chain for the availability of carts too. So if we're going out to try to replace 6,000 carts, whatever number we need, that could actually be problematic.
Yeah, that's a good point. It would also explain the price that one particular vendor provided us for carts. I think they're actually fine. They're surprisingly sturdy. Going back to my comment earlier about how they were throwing them all over the place at one point. I never actually saw a broken cart, despite them being tossed around quite a bit. So, I think they're pretty good quality, and as long as they're not broken, we're literally putting trash in them. So. As long as you can wheel it to the street and wheel it back,
And hose it out once in a while.
yeah.
And, all of the vendors use very similar carts, the 96 gallon. I think the one thing that was brought up to us that doesn't seem to be a huge problem, to me, I've not noticed it, but the previous public works director mentioned that there were a lot of carts that were different colors throughout the town. And of course, we tell people that the gray card is trash, and then the blue-green one, I think, is recycling. And there were people that had different color ones, and it confused them. I don't know if that's a big issue or not, but it would be nice to have just consistency on the color.
I've never seen different colored carts.
I did. One of my neighbors was complaining about this several weeks ago because I think the recycling cart broke. And it was like a blue cart with a green lid, and then I gave her a green cart with a blue lid or something like that.
Oh, no.
Well, that may stem from their shortage that they've been having.
Yeah, that's true.
Parts. Then they had to, in certain points, they had to maybe put in a secret cart and kind of switch it out next time without you noticing.
Yeah.
Well, you look at the boundaries of the city, and it kind of meanders in some parts, or going down South Point Road, and there's overlap with, I guess, Gaston County trash carts in some cases. So I don't know what color carts they use, but that might be an advantage to going with an incumbent, is that they at least know the routes a little bit better than a newcomer would. And if we did switch vendors, I'm not saying we shouldn't, but if we do, we could have a few extra calls to, customer service to be able to try to figure out why are they missing pickups and things like that. Learning our routes is probably not all that easy.
And I had one more comment on the carts. I was going to say ours broke about 1.5 years ago, and we got it fixed without any issues. So if we have residents who have broken carts, it's not a big deal to get it replaced.
Becky,
so I like the idea of keeping their carts.
Becky, and you called them?
Yeah, it did take 2 calls, but we got it fixed.
Yeah. No. I think having a liaison, as mentioned before, is the way to go for that. I know that could become frustrating if you call 2 or 3 times and you don't know. But that's good that they helped you out.
Bill, do any of the bidders actually put a limit on the number of cart replacements per annum or something like that, or they're more than willing to work with us?
No, I think they're more than willing to work with us.
Okay.
Did we ever find Councilman Turner's cart? His went missing.
Is it AWOL?
AWOL, yeah. No one knows where it is.
What do you do with a stolen cart?
I don't know. But on a more serious note, I believe he did express that he was having problems getting it replaced, I think, for some of the reasons that we were talking about, that there might not be as many around, and it might be harder to get new ones in light of, as it is a number of other household appliances, apparently, as a result of the supply chain issues.
Curious question off to Robert and Jen. During your proposal review and discussions, did we entertain the thought of bringing like leaf pickup in-house?
So I don't want to steal Bill's thunder because he's already put together that strategy. It sounds like with Adrian's input. But yes, and I think we left that meeting supportive of that strategy. It seems to make the most sense so that we could move to more of an on-demand approach to that pickup and achieve some significant cost savings.
Yeah, that was my next question. The cost savings from Waste Pro Services, that sounds good. And even, I mean, us being on the board could even chit chat a little bit about, you know, if we have these leaves, you know, maybe people who compost and you know, require those for this composting. I know you require a little bit of brown leaves and nitrogen to make the process happen. You know, just throwing the thought out there that there could be some.
And we did talk about that potential revenue generation opportunity for the city. So
you guys are good.
It's all Bill. So.
Bill.
I'll take your leaves any day, Doug. No, I mean, it seemed like the bidders were actually bidding different services too. So I applaud Bill's efforts to try to break apart the bids and compare apples to apples, because it wasn't easy with all 4 bidders here. They were bidding different services. In fact, one actually offered to bill the citizens directly, which probably is fraught with a lot of unintended consequences.
The council members will be busy with questions.
Well, can you go to City Hall and pay it in person, though? That would be the question.
But you can use Bitcoin if you want.
Yeah. 1 millionth of a Bitcoin per month.
Well, this has certainly been productive for me, so I appreciate you talking about that.
Thanks, Bill.
Great. Yeah, thanks. Okay. The last call for any last topics, comments?
Well, just thank you all for the job you're doing. I haven't had a chance. I try to visit the various boards, and I hadn't had a chance to sit in with you, so I'm happy to be able to do that. And you know, obviously it's harder, you know, when you're not in person, and hopefully that'll be, you know, back to normal soon, one hope. But you know, I just appreciate the work you all are doing, and you know, that you have a lot of energy and are you know, working to focus on things to make the city better.
Well, thank you both for joining us. And Jim, you and I are actually connected on LinkedIn, so I understand you celebrated a birthday yesterday.
Well, that is true.
Well, happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Jim.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I just echo a lot of what Jim said. You know, I think you guys are doing good work. You know, I regret not being able to sit on a meeting before this, but I'm glad we had this opportunity to kind of get to talk. And you know, I hope we can keep doing this in the future. I know we've had meetings like this with other boards, and I feel like they've been very productive. So I hope this is something we can kind of continue to do, because you guys kind of hear things and can look at these things more in detail, I think, than we always can. So certainly value your input. And, you know, especially something with trash. I mean, that's literally something that touches everybody in the city. So, you know, it's important work, and I appreciate everything that you're doing.
And this is Tiffany from the planning department. I just wanted to say that we've really appreciated all of the ESB's efforts over the past year in 2020 with the tree ordinance, with the public education and outreach components, and with coming together to put together this work plan. So I just wanted to acknowledge that in front of council as well, that a lot happened in 2020 and that this board was on top of it, being proactive and partnering so that we could get that accomplished. That tree ordinance was no easy feat, and neither was the public outreach component in all of those efforts. And so I just wanted to say thank you. Yeah,
I do believe the tree ordinance was a good piece of work. And I'm glad that we because Mark and I both talked about it. It was something we heard during our campaign in 2019 from a lot of people, just like, oh my, some of the developments, just, oh my God, and there were all these trees there, and then like overnight they're gone, and what can we do about that? Because that's not good.
Yeah. I think I think we actually got a really good ordinance, and I know that was a lot of work. And we're already seeing results from it.
Yeah.
I know we've had a couple projects come through already where they've already kind of started to implement that. So,
and the people that aren't serious about it, they get, if they get scared away, then that's fine too, I think, in light of our overall strategies. So, I think there are a multitude of benefits from it.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, for that. Go ahead, Robert.
No, I was just going to say that the consultant we hired, Davey, I think we got our money's worth out of them. We got a lot of work out of them. And I think the whole process was, at least for me, very educational. But the fact that we're only reviewing our second appeal so far with the new ordinance means people are either adhering to it or they're choosing to build somewhere else. I don't know what it is, but I think
hopefully it means it's not overly cumbersome and it's
no, I don't think so.
I mean,
it's been in effect for at least 6 months now, if not longer, and we're only reviewing our second case next week. That actually may be a good sign.
That's great. And I just want to mention there something that really pops up to me as important, that not everyone on the board was involved in that. And the way that we struck that was we built up a subcommittee to focus just on that. And I think that's an important thing to remember for the future, that when we do have these challenges and whatnot, the board develops some sort of a focus group to take this on. And I think that, so I wasn't part of that effort, but I think it was great that we were able to assign a few folks to that became experts on it, like Robert, to tackle these. And, to break up into small groups, I think is the way to conquer challenges in Belmont and, be a model city for cities around. So I think that's an important thing to note here.
I think the planning boards used a similar approach for a lot of what we've thrown at them last year.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean that definitely seems to be a good approach. So
divide and conquer.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Perfect. Well, that is our plan for 2021. So, okay, great. Well, if there's no other comments or questions, thank you all for joining. I think we can adjourn our meeting, but look forward to continue working with everyone on the call. So,
thank you.
All right. Good evening, everyone.
Have a good night. Take care.
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.
Okay.
Bye. Thank you.